Howdy bubs and welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing our journey with GameMaker in our second game by adding in a health bar, parent objects, and pickup objects. So let's go ahead and dive into this and see how we're going to be messing around with our health bar. So if we go ahead and hit create and go to object, this will be O health bar. And inside our health bar, let's see, is the B supposed to be capital? Yeah, health bar is 2 words. There you go, health bar. Now, it has no sprite, but we do have one event inside of here. This is going to be a draw event. We'll go to draw, and this will just draw, or let's increase the size of this for everyone. Draw a health bar. How we're going to do this, we're going to go ahead and create a with statement. So with the owner, whatever the owner is, that'll be something we create whenever we create this object. If the image underscore x scale is equal to -1, then we're going to flip the anchor to be 1, else it is anchor is equal to 0. This is going to be relevant. So based off of which direction we're looking, it ensures that we don't accidentally flip the sprite for the health bar, which would make it look weird. If, for instance, our player sprite is flipped because it's looking to the left, this will catch that. Then we actually draw our health bar. Draw underscore health bar. We specify our x value minus the sprite underscore width divided by 2. So it'll be somewhat centered on our character. We take our current x value, which should be the center of our character, minus half of our width, bringing it to the left side of hopefully the edge of our character. The y is the same thing, sprite. Actually, no, the y is actually a little different. Sprite height divided by 2. So assuming our y value is also centered on our player sprite, we move up to the top, and then that should bring it to the top of our sprite, and another 30 pixels gives us a little bit more space to it, so that way it's floating above our head rather than right at the top of our head. This gives it a little bit more space. Then I'm going to break this onto the next line to make it easier to read. Our x value, where it ends, is x sprite width divided by 2, so it's just the other half since we're adding here, and then our y value will be the same thing over here. However, whereas this tells us the top left corner, this will tell us the bottom right corner of the health bar. How big do I want my health bar? To be 10 pixels, the difference between 30 and 20. Then whatever our current health is over our max health times 100. And then what color do I want this to be? I want this to be black, red, green. The anchor specifies the orientation, false and true to showing border, and then close that off. Of course, you can play around with all these values. This specifies what's the background for the column. As we lose health, it slowly becomes red. When we're at full health, it is green. The orientation of the anchor, or of the health bar, and how it looks. Whether I show the back and whether I have a little border around it. You can play with these colors, these values, and see what it looks like and if it pleases you. This will create a health bar, but it's just an object. And all of this only ties if it has an owner. By default, there is no owner. However, we are not going to just be creating health bars and throwing them into the room ourselves. This is something that we specify with our objects. So if we go over to our player, we're going to, of course, create a couple of variables to keep track of. We need to, of course, know what our current health is. Let's see. So health-related stuff. We can specify our hit points. I'll just give it 100. Actually, I'll give it 50. I'll be at half health just to demonstrate what it looks like. HP, max HP is equal to 100. I'll cycle between this just so you can see what it looks like. And then with instance create layer, our X, Y, our layer, and we're going to create a O health bar. Then inside this, we're going to specify the owner is equal to other being ourselves. So now with this, we should be able to run and see the health bar drawn in there. Yes, there we go. I'm at half health. I look to the left. Because we have that anchor switch based off of the direction we're looking, it correctly swaps back and forth. So that way this does not get thrown or flipped to the other side. So this is it at half health. If I were at full health, you can see it's solid green. If I were to drop to just 10 points of health, you can see it's a very bright red. Based off of how far above my head is, I think it's a little too much. So I might want to go back to my health bar and drop this to maybe 20 pixels and this to be 10 pixels. I still like the size of it being 10 pixels large, but I think it's just a little too far above me. Ah, that's closer. I like that. But I start the game at 10 health. I want to be able to pick up items that will heal me. We'll probably end up picking several items as we go about our game. So this is going to lead into the next part where I'm going to want to pick up objects, or have objects that allow us to be picked up and added into our game, or into our player, one of which being health. But as I just stated, we're probably going to be picking up a number of items in our game, or perhaps not, depends on how you build your game. But I intend to have a couple of items that I pick up. But I don't want to have to copy and paste code. I want one thing that serves as the baseline, the template for these other objects. That can be referred to as creating a parent object. So I'm going to create an object here. I'm going to call this parent underscore pickup. This is going to be a pickup item, or pickup object, that serves as our parent, and it's going to have two events inside. It's going to have its step event, and this step event simply addresses floating. We could just leave a little object there and it gets picked up and that's it, but one thing that's good visual indicator that something's meant to be picked up is it tends to kind of float up and down. There's a fun little equation for those of you that have worked in or taken trigonometry, but for everyone else that has not gotten there, you don't have to worry about this. You can just trust me in the math, and when I say that this will cause our y value to follow a sinusoidal pattern and rise up and down. The other thing that's going to be shared across all of my pickup objects is they of course collide with the player. Collision, object, and player. When I collide with the player, I want to make sure I delete myself and instance underscore destroy this pickup object. But that's it. This is the one thing that I know is going to be shared across everything. It destroys itself when it collides, and it floats. What I'll do now is create an object that will inherit from this. So I'm going to create a new object. This will be health, or heart. Heart is going to have a sprite. I painstakingly created this sprite to look like it's rotating. It's not perfect. You get the gist of it. It serves my purposes for at least this. So I'm going to go to heart. I'm going to grab this sprite that I have created, heart, and I'm going to specify a parent. Who is the parent of this object? It will be parent pickup. I now have inherited two events. The step event to have us floating, and a collision event with the player that deletes itself. I want to modify this. I want to inherit this event. I'm going to add a little bit to this. This inherits the parent event, so ensures that whenever I collide, I delete myself. But before I delete myself, I need to increase player health. And in here, I'm going to have other being the player that we just collided with us. Their hit points to be plus equals 5. Then I can go over to my room. And as you can tell, I kind of modified a couple of things after comments on my mountains and the size of my room. I've edited a couple of things, moved around the layers that everything's at. I'm going to create a new instance layer. And I want this to be here. Rename this to pickups. And I'm going to place a couple of hearts. Notice they're kind of small. Maybe I can modify that. I can just edit the sprite. It's up to you. I'll leave this be. They exist inside the room. And so now we have several hearts in here, all rotating, all rising up and down. They're all in sync. Maybe I want to change that up. And stuff to keep in mind for the future. But I can run through here, and we notice it increases my health by 5 points. Now you've been introduced to a mechanism that serves as a parent object to other objects. You can just pull or inherit from those other objects, so that way you're able to save yourself from copying code, especially when there's multiple related things in there. So we can go ahead and create our other object, our weapon pickup. Select our sprite, weapon, add in our parent. Our parent, of course, is the parent pickup item, and go into our event. We're going to, of course, inherit this and add in give player weapon, and inside here, our player is going to have the variable check has weapon set to true. And we're going to instance create layer and specify the X and Y values. And in the player layer, and we're going to give them, of course, the weapon. And specify do I have weapons. Items. Chances are you'll have multiple items throughout the game. And once we start dealing with other rooms and transitioning within rooms, we want to know, of course, if the player has actually picked up any of these items. Sometimes the player may skip picking up the weapon. When they enter the next room, they should not automatically have this weapon. We need to check to see if they do. So just to get ahead of that, whenever we move forward, let's go ahead and just create this. Initially at the start of the game, the player does not have a weapon. Now, so long as we have this in the room, weapon pickup here, make sure the player does not have the weapon already existing. And we can run this. Now I move along. As you see, there's no crossbow with me, but I pick this up, and now I have the crossbow with me. However, it is in the wrong layer. It's actually below me. I want this in front of me. So that's something to keep in mind. Perhaps we can add in a weapons layer. So that way when we pick up our weapon, this goes to the weapons layer. So that way it can be properly displayed on top of our person. And there we go. Otherwise, that's how we'll close off this video. We've added in health. We've added a health bar. We've added pickup objects, the parent event, as well as a pickup for the weapon, and a pickup for health. If you need any assistance, just let me know in class. Otherwise, that's all I've got. Everyone, have a good one. I just wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Shout out to my bad bubs, my top 5, my day ones. Y'all have always been there for me. Next up, my baby bubs, the next 5. I always love y'all's support. And finally, for everyone else, any little bit helps. Thank you to all my basic bubs for supporting me along my journey. If you want to continue receiving notifications, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell button.